I've had a bit of an epiphany, and I'm planning to build it out into a full-blown metaphor. And it goes something like this. The executive branch, and by executive branch I would typically mean C-suite, but there are operations that don't have a C-suite. So the executive branch of our major oil, gas, and energy infrastructure companies, they are to those corporations what voters are to our democracy. Bet you didn't see that coming. Just think about it for a minute. Neither group is in a position to be able to fact check and know the actual truth about anything that they're collecting for inputs to make their decisions. In the case of us out here in the electorate, there's the whole thing. What news do you trust? Do you trust the news? Where are you going to get your data? Most of us are not in a position where we could really go to the site of a controversy and with our own eyes see what the plain truth is. And that ends up being more or less the same position that most of the people end up in a modern C-suite situation. Because the corporations have evolved a lot over my lifetime. And it's entirely possible that there's nobody in the executive group of a particular oil and gas and energy giant that even has any particular brand of field of experience coming along with them. Just the same thing that we can't expect ourselves as voters to have all these other, in the industry, we like to call it in the weeds knowledges. As voters, we're not in the weeds in North Carolina right now, and we're not in the weeds in Ottawa right now. And so we only have the inputs that we have. And that same thing happens at the executive level in our major corporations. And so maybe somebody clings on to one particular team's data stream and moves forward with that being the truth as they know it. And that's pretty understandable human reaction, because if you look at our big corporations, the multiple teams that are feeding data or potentially feeding data towards the executive branch, they do have wildly different drivers and often conflicting interests, and would often be telling stories that are not well aligned. And it's a human thing to try to avoid those kind of complications, because, otherwise you're going to have to really dig in. So sometimes it's just easier to choose one team's truth to follow and go ahead with that. Is that good governance? No, of course that's not good governance. And that's nobody's ever going to try to make that statement. The statement I am trying to make, though, is good governance, whether it's corporate governance or political governance, would involve taking the time to resolve those conflicting stories and come to a path of action that has, in fact, taken in all the various flavors of, I hate this, but they really become flavors of the truth, right? Where I'm not going to stand here and say that all but one team are lying, but I am going to say that all the teams are offering you a different flavor of the truth. And sometimes the best way to get to the bottom of that is to bring in a disinterested third party. It's not part of the overall game at all, and is only there to facilitate a path to the truth. Think about it. Give Advando a call. See what an Advando senior advisor could do for your next decision-making sessions.